What up, YouTube? Now, second video. Now, this is a screencast. So I'm going to show you how to compare the GR3 and the GR3X, the lens and the depth of field and snap focus and zone focusing. And you can do that before you've even got one of the cameras in your hands. And we do that by Googling this: depth of field simulator. Not just a calculator, but a simulator. This is a really cool homepage I'm going to show you now. Depth of field simulator.net. Head over to that. Now, quite a complicated looking screen, but it's very clever. It uses all of the algorithms of the mathematical equations that you can predict how a lens is going to behave, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you get in there, it's going to ask you about cookies, you click agree. Now you can set up the scales that it's going to show you on screen down here. You can see over on the right here we have an example image at the current settings of these selections over here. Then over here at the bottom it has this scale. Now this scale is really good, realistic, quite accurate. Here you've got the camera, or better than that, it's the actual distance to the sensor on this red line here. Over here you have your focal point, where you're actually focusing on the model. Okay, now when you're setting snap focus up in your Ricoh GR III or IIIx, these will be the distances that you set on the snap focus menu. Okay, now for this to work properly, we have to change some settings. Like I said, I'll be doing this in meters and centimeters. You can use imperial measurements if you want, so you get it in feet and yards, like that, and it shows you in inches for the depth of field currently on that particular lens and aperture, and you've got feet over here. Okay, I prefer metric. I think in metric. So here we have a woman as the model. The background is a shot of Paris, and the camera or the sensor are set up to be a 35mm full frame. The Ricoh GR III and the GR3X use an APS-C size sensor. So we go on that menu there and change to the basic APS-C. Not the Canon, not the H. APS-C. So there we go there. Now, we have to set the correct focal length of the lens, the actual focal length, not the equivalent. So let's start with the Ricoh GR III. That is an 18.3mm lens, and there you can see it's telling you down here in the brackets that that's the equivalent of a 28mm on a full frame. Okay, so now the image here has changed dramatically from that blurry background to a deep depth of field. Now the Ricoh, as you know, has on the snap menu, when you set the snap focal distance without actually aiming at the camera or anything, you've got 1 meter, 1.5 meters, 2 meters, and 2.5 and 5 meters. So for the GR3, I usually set that to 2.5 meters, but it wants this distance in centimeters. So that is 2.5 meters is 250 centimeters. So that's that set. And now let's, you can see I'm moving my trackpad here and it's changing that. So I want to get away from that again. Get that back to 2.5 and then get away from that scroll bar there. Now, this is your aperture. Right now I'm on 7.1, and you can see here that the model, or the person I'm taking the picture of, from a distance of 2.5 meters away from this lens, she is well within the whole frame. So I could go closer. I could go for 2 meters. If I want to get a little bit closer, let's just change that like that. So 2 meters is 200 centimeters. And now when I scroll up a little bit, you can see I've got that person more or less from top to bottom of the frame. Now you can see how that has changed the depth of field. Here you've got the camera and the sensor. The red line here is the critical focus point where the image will be at its absolute sharpest. And this is the start of your focus zone. This blue line here and this shaded area is your focus zone. And at f7.1, that gives you a focus zone behind the subject of 8.11 meters, and in front of the subject it's giving you 89 centimeters. So combined there you have a focus zone of 9 meters. Okay, now what if there are things going on in the background that you also want sharp? Well, you're just going to have to increase your aperture. So you're not making your aperture smaller, you're just increasing the number. Well, sorry, you are making the aperture smaller but the number bigger. So at f8, 2 meters, we've doubled up basically. We're almost at 20 meters now. And if I go to f9, there you got f9 there, and you can see now that we are well below. We're just below 1 meter there. So anything from 1 meter to in front of the camera all the way out to infinity, and you can see the infinity symbol has appeared here behind the subject. So everything is going to be in that very deep depth of field now. Okay, now another way to do that is step back a bit, go back up to 2.5 meters, and you can see now I can increase the amount of light getting in the camera whilst keeping everything nice and sharp, big deep depth of field as well. By just stepping back that half meter, I can now go down to there, f7.1, and it's still in focus all the way out to infinity, or rather acceptable focus. The critical focus point is still there where we're focusing on our model, and that now goes all the way out to infinity from just about 1 meter in front of the camera. So that's how snap focus works. It's zone focusing, and now we're going to look at what will this look like on the Ricoh GR3X. So the GR3X has a 26.1mm lens, 40 in full frame equivalent terms. And now you can see at f7.1 that has changed this depth of field dramatically. It's much shallower. So what you really should do now with the 40mm lens is just go right up there into the final setting on the snap focus of 5 meters. And there you see critical focus is on at 5 meters, and 7 aperture of f7.1. We're really getting a massive distance into the background of 480 meters. That's like half a kilometer, yeah. So it's quite deep, and we are looking at about just over 2 meters from the photographer. Everything starts to get sharp. Critical sharpness at 5 meters, all the way out to 480 meters. If you want to get sharpness all the way out, just go up to f8, bang, like that, and there you can see we hit the infinity mark. But it could make for some interesting depth of field compositions if you keep your focus, your snap focus point at 5 meters and bring that down a little bit. You can see here at f4, for example, you've got a depth of field of about 8 meters in all. So you're going to have a nice sharp area here in front of the camera, and that looks to be about 3.5 meters from the camera. Things start to get sharp. You hit your critical focus at 5 meters, and then things way up, like a long street or something like that, they'll start to get blurry out here. So that's one way to compare these two lenses. Up here, depth of field simulator, dofsimulator.net. Check it out. You can decide which lens is better for you once you've played around with these settings in here. Will it be the GR3, or do you want that bit of shallow depth of field when you're working with the GR IIIx? And if you want to see what that's like, let's say you're going for a nice close-up portrait. So we're going to go like that. We're going to get right down to about 1 meter there, like that. And we're going to bring that down to the minimum aperture number for this lens, f2.8. And you can see down here the depth of field is very shallow now, and so that's what's going to be in focus. The lens itself won't give you massive bokeh, even though everything will be out of focus behind it. It's not going to completely destroy it and smash it like a more expensive lens will do, but it does give you some nice subject isolation, blur out that background a little bit, and it will be better at portraits than the GR3. Just a smidgen better. If we take a look at the same settings on the GR3, 18.3 there, you can see it's still a shallower depth of field on that lens, and we have to get up close, but it's not quite as blurry in the background, and that's really how it works in real life as well. I've been testing these two cameras out, and I will post some sample images of both cameras doing their thing, and I will write on the images which settings I was using. Expect that in another video, but I will do a sequence where I use both cameras at 2.8 and both cameras in the optimal snap settings. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Next one up is how I customize the cameras, how I use them on a daily basis, how I've stopped using those user settings on the main dial, and I just keep everything in one basic setting and just have the ability to quickly change anything out with a thumb or a finger press. Okay, bye for now. Have a great day. Get yourself a GR. Enjoy life. See ya.